we're still banging them out.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
As I told you yesterday, there will be a new normal that develops. I just don't know when it's going to be a new normal. And, you know, when it gets to the level of new normal, nobody wants to say that's normal. But one day at a time, sometimes it's almost like 1 hour at a time, don't you think? Glad to have you aboard. Thank you very much for tuning in to the show. As I told you last night, and I'll repeat as long as we can, we're flying solo here. We have a guest prohibition for people in our building for at least this week, which is a wise precaution. It's often eerie, and I think a lot of people watching this show probably experienced this over the course of the last couple of days, maybe prior and maybe for a while, that the buildings that you normally work in are very empty, which means you're really important if you're in the building. Or really dumb, I'm not sure. Sorry. Or, hey, listen, right? I'm trying to figure out which one I am, to be honest with you. But the building is very quiet. Stacy and Kevin are here getting the show done, and we've got a lot of information for you, so we'll share it. And we got to keep laughing, right? Of course, I talked to Kevin about this. I try to convince him to come here to the set because he plays the unknown director over there, but he is my guy that I always turn to and say, "What do you think about Patriots, Kev?" So watch this. "What do you think about Brady, Kev?"
Sadness.
Sadness. Show the headline. Show the headline. And it was really interesting when this came down in the alerts that came down tonight on Tom Brady were now look, admittedly, I'm a Giant fan. You should know that by now if you're a regular viewer and listener to the radio. If not, welcome aboard. I'm a Giant fan. David Tyree, that's all I'm going to say. But look, when the bulletin came down, I thought, how underwhelming, right? How underwhelming that news seems in the space of everything that we are going through. But in the same sense, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in the program if we can fit it in the same sense, it was kind of neat that Tom Brady's playing status and where he was going to lay his helmet down this coming fall actually matters still. So that's a good thing. In the meantime, I told you, and I tell you every day because of timing issues, that we tape the show in the early afternoon. So it's literally 1:45 as I speak, and the governor just began her press conference, which was scheduled at 1 and didn't get underway until after 1:30. And that tells you that they are still accumulating information and trying to scramble as much as possible. Attempted deadlines are just that, attempted. But the governor updated. I'm looking at my texts as we speak. I'm unable to grab the feed. You've seen highlights or you watched it earlier today, but we have 2 new cases as of 1:45 this afternoon. One man in his 50s reportedly traveled to Germany and the UK, and another woman in her 40s, which I think might have been mentioned late yesterday, and they're not exactly sure how she contracted that. And that's what this disease travel part is all about. The containment and knowing where you were and who you might associate it with is beginning to erode a little bit, and there's more investigation necessary to find out whose case is what. Reportedly, we have about 3,000 people in quarantine right now. I'm told that the governor is talking about some Microsoft technology trying to aid and abet the effort to get people to work online. I'm not exactly sure what that's all about, but make sure that all the information that you need regarding what the governor's had to say, know that it'll be found on WPRI.com, and there's not a fact, figure, or concern or new development that won't be on that site. By the way, also they're asking folks who have dental offices and oral health offices to stop non-essential care for 21 days. My dentist got ahead of that and canceled my every 3-month appointment this past, which is scheduled for tomorrow, yesterday. And funerals should apply to mass gathering rule and should be limited to immediate families. Elderly shouldn't attend the suggested live streaming services. And by the way, a lot of parishes, a lot of community churches do that. Nobody wants to be talking about funerals in any way, shape, or form, any day of the week, ever. But that's another practical situation there. Okay. On the developments, yesterday there was a discussion of Rhode Island unemployment. Here's a headline that reflected the cases kind of soaring, topping 10,000 in less than a week. Well, we've got a lot of hospitality employees. Here's what Eyewitness News put together on that specific part of that story.
On Monday, Governor Gina Raimondo announced all dine-in restaurants must close their doors, allowing only takeout or delivery. That, along with other industries getting hammered in the coronavirus crisis, and the state's Department of Labor and Training is bracing for impact.
Our unemployment insurance claims are starting to skyrocket. The same with our TDI claims. That's what we expected, and it's happening.
When applying on the DLT website, be sure to check this box asking if you are out of work because of COVID-19. If your employer closed or partially shut down and you're out of work, you may be eligible for up to roughly 50% of your wages for 26 weeks. COVID-related claims are being processed on an expedited basis, so a check should come in within 7 to 14 days. Those in self-quarantine are eligible for temporary disability insurance, or TDI, which provides up to 14 days for COVID-related claims. But officials tell us if you're not sure, just apply online and they will work with you to find which benefit fits your situation best.
All right, so there you have it. I know we have kind of a built-in distrust for bureaucracy and whether you can get some help. The Department of Administration is really doing a pretty good job, reportedly, of getting on this thing. You know, the UHIP crisis and the computer problem and just the welfare benefits and everything else that got all blown up with that. Doesn't seem to be kind of in the mix right now. Be patient on telephone lines and be patient with the people who are working those lines, because most of them are working overtime. In the meantime, we've got some issues when it comes to the Hospitality Association that Tim indicated there in his package. Sarah Bratko, who's a high-ranking official with the Rhode Island Hospitality Association, joined me on the radio yesterday to kind of lament this very tough, draconian, but necessary rule that no dine-in is happening at bars and restaurants.
I understand that this is very much a difficult thing for our members. We understand it's a difficult thing for Rhode Islanders, but ultimately we have to do what we all have to do to keep each other safe. We are looking for ways that we can help the industry, make it through this and rebound from it. But we just ask that everybody cooperate, and that the faster we all kind of get on board with doing this, the faster we can get back up and running.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, there's some political conversation going on in the country, obviously, with the primaries that are being suspended or altered. Ohio has canceled their primary for today based on the coronavirus worries. We have a headline here regarding our primary and what's up in the air and what's not. Here's Eyewitness News coverage on that.
Good morning, everybody.
There was a lot to unpack during Governor Gina Raimondo's Monday press briefings.
My present thinking is that we will not delay that, but we are in discussion right now around how we can safely have that election.
But it is clear impacts of the coronavirus are widespread. Rhode Island set to vote on April 28th. Steve Erickson is the vice chair of the Board of Elections. Erickson tells Eyewitness News they are considering everything from an all-mail ballot primary to mailing out ballots to registered voters and limiting polling locations, or pushing back the primary altogether.
We're encouraging voters to bring their own pens, black pen is best, to bring a Clorox wipe with them.
States like Florida and Arizona will hold their primaries today, making small adjustments like moving polling places out of nursing homes, lessening the risk of exposure to older residents.
We should not force them to make this choice.
In Ohio, a battle over the ballot. A judge denying the request to push back today's primary, but the state's health director declaring an emergency, preventing polls from opening. Here at home, the answer is less clear.
From where I'm sitting, that is an eternity away, because that's more than a month away. We're trying to get through today and this week.
And I think, again, that's prudent. Right now, you've got to look a little long-term, but the majority of the focus that the governor and many state officials have right now are bang, right in front of us. In the meantime, the White House is working on a stimulus program that certainly made the markets feel a little bit better today. We'll talk about that and more when we return. Stay with us.
If everyone makes this change or these critical changes and sacrifices now, we will rally together as one nation and we will defeat the virus, and we're going to have a big celebration all together.
Well, we're all looking forward to that, right? You know, it's funny, over the course of time, I have been very critical of the president over his just hyperbolic behavior, you know, exaggerating everything and not being able to trust him on anything that is true. And yesterday probably changed his tone for the serious and for the immediate for the first time. And it was funny, today I actually found myself, and I had to pinch myself over this, maybe you did too, I had to pinch myself over some of his optimism after he was smart enough to be sensible, somber, serious, and focused on the sickness, on the disease, rather than trying to phony up the markets. And you know, I think the 3,000 point hit that we took yesterday was a real shock to everybody's system. Today, headline here, Trump decides that he's going to throw in a stimulus, which is incredible. How we're going to pay for this down the line in terms of debt is beyond me. Economists will try to figure that out, but it's because of this headline from yesterday with a 3,000 point crash. And I have to tell you, I've been neglecting to even look at my own portfolio. Just a working stiff, just like you, hoping that there's enough after all the bills are paid and the kids' stuff is done, and whenever you're sick and tired of looking at me and listening to me, they'll have a little bit to, you know, to get along, right? And I didn't even want to look. I didn't even want to look. And I actually, for those of you who, you know, have really felt a sense of panic and you can't see the future and all that kind of stuff, know that, you know, everybody's feeling that at one moment or another. There might be tougher people or people who can set it aside or compartmentalize. But I can promise you, I woke up this morning and said, oh boy, all right, let's just look at it. Then I checked with my financial advisor and said, hey, listen, should I still be pumping this? Should I stop? You know, he took a look at the portfolio and everything else, and it had been crucified. You know, the amount of loss is significant, and it takes your breath away in a big way. But investor types and financial advisors who don't sell you, you hope that you have somebody who's not trying to sell you, who have a relationship with you and who can be honest with you about things, will give you sage advice. And I think, you know, I'm getting on. It's not like I'm a 40-year-old guy anymore that's got 25 years to worry about the retirement thing coming back. You know, it's a shorter frame of that time. You know, you sit there and you go, oh boy, okay, what do I do? Do I go to cash? Do I do this? And it's nice to talk it out. So if you're one of those people who's kind of ignored it and you're kind of afraid of it, my suggestion to you would be the more you embrace it, the better you feel. I got in the car this morning after having a brief email conversation with my guy and went, okay, all right, you know, steady as we go, this thing will be better. And, you know, comments like this from the president are, you know, after he gets serious about this thing, perhaps helpful.
We're giving relief to affected industries and small businesses, and we're ensuring that we emerge from this challenge with the prosperous and growing economy, because that's what's going to happen. It's going to pop. One day we'll be standing possibly up here, we'll say, well, we won. And we're going to say that. Sure as you're sitting there, we're going to say that.
Well, you know what? We all want to come through this. And, you know, 45-day peaks in New York, as they're being predicted, slower, flattened curves that roll out in June and July, you know, may bring us a late summer and a fall where we're breathing a sigh of relief, or we're still dealing with this thing. Who knows? But I guess my best financial advice for you is to just talk it over. Talk it over with your spouse, talk it over with your friends, talk it over with your family, talk it over with your advisors. Talking it over feels a little bit better. In the meantime, Joe Kennedy on the Massachusetts side had his own thoughts, and we covered this on the economics.
I think there's a sense of urgency, no doubt.
Massachusetts Congressman Joe Kennedy says the coronavirus response legislation so far is just a first step.
I was on the floor with Speaker Pelosi at 12:30 in the morning, Friday night, Saturday morning, whatever it was. And she was already focused then on the next bill.
The priority now, addressing the economic damage from the pandemic. Kennedy wants more money for community health centers, direct cash payments to help Americans pay their bills, and paid sick leave for franchise and gig economy workers.
Not just because it's the right thing to do, but if you've got somebody that is an Uber driver and doesn't get access to it and they're sick, but they have to make ends meet, they're going to keep driving, which means more people are going to get sick. This is how you have to respond to a pandemic.
All this comes as Kennedy is in a hotly contested U.S. Senate primary against incumbent Ed Markey, but even campaign strategy is changing due to the outbreak.
We've been out and about across the state an awful lot, running a very aggressive retail campaign. A lot of high fives, a lot of fist bumps, a lot of handshakes, a lot of hugs. You can't do any of that. And rightfully so.
His main message to the public?
As much as this feels like it's something way out beyond your control, that each of us actually can do something to impact the severity and duration of it.
And the social distancing is actually, in large part, in addition to washing your hands feverishly. And by the way, we have a policy here in this building. As soon as you come into the building, you go right to the sink and you wash your hands. That's a good thing. Every building should have that, no matter what you happen to be doing. It's the first thing that ought to be done. But every little bit helps, and you hope that this flattening curve will occur based on everybody doing their little part, right? When we come back, we'll reflect on some of the medical advice that we've received over the last couple of days. And of course, we got to talk a little bit more about Tom Brady. Oh my gosh, stay with us. And I'm gonna run this segment one more time, and probably there are a couple of segments that I thought were key in terms of the conversation that is most important here, and that is our attempt to flatten the curve. Laura Williams is from PC. She's a biologist, and she was here a few nights ago last week. You might see this 90-minute edit of the conversation on a regular basis here, because it's just drumming in the same concepts.
This is why you'll see people talking about flattening the epidemic curve. So this is an idea where you're looking at how can we get the number of cases below a point that our healthcare system can deal with it. And so that's why you see people asking for folks who may not really be part of the vulnerable population to make decisions about things like social distancing, make decisions about travel, because we're trying to make sure that we do not overwhelm the healthcare system, because everybody's health, heart attacks aren't going to go away.
Right.
You still need to be able to treat those things. There's been indications that people who smoke might be more vulnerable. So lots of different things come into this: age, smoking, underlying conditions. Geography might play a part of it, but there's so much travel now between places that I think that if you've got community spread in a few places, you really do need to clamp that down, or it will get out into the rest of the nation. One of the things I always tell my microbiology students is that there's a lot of debate about whether viruses are living or not, and they're really just a very simple organism. And we're the ones with all the complexity that comes down to, is it going to spread? How far is it going to spread? How can we treat people who get it? And all of that is all factors that we have control over.
10 seconds here. Bottom line, don't not take it seriously.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't not take it seriously.
Yes.
But don't freak out.
Don't panic, but think carefully about what your role can be.
Now, since that aired last week, the idea that you should take it seriously is probably, well, there are too many people out there that still aren't. You see pictures from the beaches in the South where folks are congregating on those beaches. There are still stories here where kids are running around in groups, and you just have to keep clamping down on these kids who feel like they are hardly vulnerable. And we were all of that mindset a long time ago, right? They are potential carriers, and those people who are potentially in harm's way here, seniors and those with preconditions that don't do well with viruses of this kind, need to be protected. So keep the pedal down. In the meantime, if you want to have a little bit of normal controversy, we might as well just run the entire story here. Tom Brady finally pulls the trigger and is out. Say it ain't so.
20 years of Tom Brady. What a ride, so let's take a look back. Chosen with the 199th pick in the 2000 draft out of Michigan, Brady was a fourth stringer his rookie season and only threw 3 passes all year. But in 2001, in Week 2 against the Jets, a brutal hit from Mo Lewis on Drew Bledsoe knocked the Pats franchise quarterback out of the game and Brady into the spotlight.
I'm going to make the best decisions I can for the football team. That's what Mr. Kraft's paying me to do, and that's what I'm going to do.
Brady led New England to an 11-5 record and a thrilling win over the Raiders in snowy Foxborough Stadium, the game now infamously referred to as the Tuck Rule game. An upset win over the top-seeded Steelers in the AFC Championship set the table for one of the NFL's most improbable upsets, the Pats stunning the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams, with Brady leading the game-winning last-minute drive. But that storybook season was just the beginning. Brady led the Pats to back-to-back Super Bowls in 2003 and 2004, a dynasty established, and Brady a certifiable star in the league. In 2007, TB12 was the league MVP with the Pats offense setting NFL records en route to a perfect season, one that ended short of the team's ultimate goal, thanks to the New York Giants. A similar fate to finish the 2011 season, with the Pats again losing to the G-Men in the big game. So entering the 2014 season, the Pats were on a 9-year championship hiatus, but the second phase of the dynasty was about to begin. The Patriots won ring number 4 in a thrilling win over the Seahawks, with a little help from Malcolm Butler. But in the midst of this second dynasty act for Brady, the Deflategate controversy swirled around the Hall of Fame quarterback. A scandal that included court hearings, appeals, reinstatements, and ultimately a 4-game suspension for Brady for the alleged deflation of footballs. But he had the last laugh in that 2016 year, hoisting up his 5th Lombardi trophy after an epic 28-3 comeback win over the Falcons. Brady's 2017 MVP season, his 3rd such honor, ended with a Super Bowl loss to the Eagles. But a year later, and Brady got ring number 6 at the age of 41, only further solidifying his position as the greatest of all time. In 2019, Brady entered the final year of his contract.
Pretty much uncharted territory, I think, for everybody.
In a frustrating season, the Pats were ousted in the wild card round, setting up an offseason of turmoil and speculation.
Thanks to Yanni Caracas for that. That was a pretty long television essay, and well-deserved. I don't know. He's going to free agency and they're looking at Tampa Bay or San Diego at this point? I'm not sure it's over till it's over. Final word when we come back. Remember, you can lose your focus. You got to go back to basics, and the hand washing is really, really important whenever you enter a new facility. And social distancing and keeping, space between people is at the core of this protection. We start to forget the fundamentals. This whole thing will go a lot slower. Have a great night. Talk to you on the radio tomorrow at 3 on WPRO. Keep the faith.